We have a replay from Tretch and Sabrus Regnum. Is the triple crusher build of Legend. Been seeing a good amount of that recently. Been seeing a good amount of ogres recently, in tournaments at least. And this triple crusher build is proving to be very, very strong if you're not quite ready for it. On the other side, reappearance of the double Manticore. Haven't seen them too much since the days of Warhammer 2 and Marathi double Manticore, but see how they do here. Small maps, so real quick going through the builds. 2 Dark Riders, 3 Cold One Knights for armor-piercing anti-large, then a front line of Dread Spears with 2 Witch Elves for support. They do have a minus melee defense and rampage debuff. They are very, very strong. Been seeing them a ton more recently, and I am glad to see them. They are an excellent support unit. Now, they are quite expensive, and they are very fragile, making them a support unit. You don't just have a front line of Witch Elves with nothing to follow up. That will not go well for you, but 1 or 2 in your army can be really annoying for your opponent to deal with. Do have Malekith on his Dragon with Joe's Soul Stealer, and as you mentioned, double Manticore, plus a sight we haven't seen for a long time, the Raven's Herald, the ROR Dark Rider Repeater Crossbows. That does give them flying. Otherwise, they're just a normal unit of Dark Rider Repeater Crossbows. Have to be careful not to get shot too much, but with the Ogres having 0 flying presence whatsoever, that does make it a much better matchup for these Raven Heralds. They really suck in melee combat, and they're very fragile to ranged fire, so just having one thing to dodge, ranged units, feels pretty good. On the other side, for the Ogres, we do have triple Crushers, as we saw. Crushers of great weapons, all of them, including the Sky Striders, which just have Frostbite. Yeah, Frostbite and then better stats. 4 Saber-Tusk packs for their extremely high weapon strength per model. And then we have an Ogre Slaughtermaster of the Great Maw with Troll Guts. And then a Nobbler frontline and the Nobbler Trappers as well. Nobbler Trapper frontlines have become very, very popular. You stop really using them like archers and you just use them more as basic Nobbler units because they have decent melee stats, but it's mostly for the Nobbler traps, damage per second. Or it's kind of like a mini little Mortis Engine type effect or something. It only lasts for a little bit and has 1 use, but still, you can get good damage out. And the Nobblers still fulfill the purpose of being bodies that can block for the Ogres and buy time for them to really get their damage out. So, good builds on both sides. Also 1 basic Ogre Bull, just had the money for it. While I personally prefer Ogre Bull rushes, I do have to give the Triple Crusher its due. I have to give it its credit. I have seen it a lot more on stream recently, and I'm starting to understand why people seem to like it so much. I don't think it is always the best build, but I do think it is a strong build. Crushers trying to get some damage on the Dread Spears, getting a good amount of damage on them, even though those units were braced for the charge. And now Cold Knights are countercharging. They're trying to get in there, but they will soon get mucked up in Nobbler Trappers, and I don't think it'll be a great trade for them overall. But the Crushers do actually turn around and just decide to come back into the fight. Dark Riders charging Nobbler Trappers, take a bit of damage on the advance, and now they are locked into melee. Malekith also diving in. I expect to see a Soul Stealer on this blob. All 3 Crushers plus the Slaughtermaster in it would probably make a good target. But it can be a bait. Soul Stealer is much better for the healing on the Dragon Lord than it is for the damage. So if you throw out too many while he's at full HP, you can end up fucking yourself over pretty bad. We are getting a Soul Stealer. It won't hit the Sky Striders, but it'll hit everything else in that blob, which is pretty huge. And the Raven's Herald are here with most of the Nobbler Trappers involved in melee combat. There aren't too many of them to really oppose this. Raven's Herald firing in. Looks like they are going for the Lord Snipe first. They want to take out the healer before they really focus on the Crushers. Just in case a Troll Guts is coming from him, and already 1 is hitting those Crushers. But good damage from the Raven's Herald already. Balance power is about even, though for the Dark Elves, their front line is entirely falling apart. Nobbler Trappers just raining in fire upon Cold One Knights and Dread Spears, so that is going poorly. The single entity big blob fight was going okay for them, but with that Troll Guts, you can see the Crushers really are withstanding. Ton of staying power on these guys. They're just sitting in there and fighting. They do have Witch Elves getting a poison applied to them, so they could end up rampaging. We'll see. They're currently just bodying those Manticores. The Raven's Herald still trying to snipe out that Ogre Lord. It really isn't working out for them. Sky Striders take a bit of a breath attack. It does actually a pretty good amount of damage. But the Raven's Herald do a lot more damage up close than they do from afar. And you can see now that the Nobbler Trappers are freed up to actually shoot at them, the Raven's Herald are already down to half HP. These guys need to be much more careful. Also, we unfortunately have some Dark Riders who have been forgotten in the distance. Things are looking really dire for the Dark Elves. But Malekith throws down another huge Soul Stealer, hits all 3 Crushers this time, and he himself is going into melee to try and stop this Slaughtermaster, though he's T-posing on him a little bit. He eventually gets a shot off. And the Raven's Herald really need to reposition. They're too far away to do meaningful damage, and they're way too close, so these Nobblers are actually doing a lot of damage back. Though thankfully for him, the Nobblers have all turned and fired at Malekith rather than continuing their assault on the Raven's Herald. Rampaging Manticore is falling off the Slaughtermaster, so even though he's rampaging, he picked the right target to rampage onto. So go, Manticore, go. Where's the other one? Is it dead? No, it's back. Cool. Raven's Herald taking a bunch of damage from 3 Noblars lined up. If Malekith had Gaze of Malice, that would be a great target, but he doesn't, so they are going to be free and clear to do what they want. But the Raven's Herald, realizing they're taking a lot of damage, do finally decide to back the fuck off, and I appreciate that. Manticore is going to chase down the Slaughtermaster, probably finish him off, unless any of the Crushers can get away from the fight and come over and help, but it's too far away at this point. They honestly probably won't be able to do too much. Breath attack onto all of the Noblars clumped up, but unfortunately the Dark Riders take some of the hit for them. Dark Riders getting nuked down. Balance power coming back towards the middle from what was a dire state. Crushers almost heal capping. These ones are very injured. The Sky Striders are fine. And Malekith boldly landing in the middle of all these Crushers, but he is going to immediately throw down a Soul Stealer to try and cover himself, heal up any damage he might take, and do a bunch more damage himself. One Crusher routes. Another Crusher is terror routing, leaving just the Sky Striders, but the Sky Striders are plenty. If you've ever landed a big Lord next to the Sky Striders, you know how much damage they can do. The Manticore did officially finish off the Slaughtermaster, and a mass rout comes in for the Ogres. That is pretty huge for the Dark Elves at this point. So really the only things left fighting on the whole map for the Ogres are these rampaging Sabertusks and the Sky Striders, who are right now getting rampaged by the Witch Elves. They're getting shot by the Raven's Herald. They're getting attacked by Malekith. They are taking a lot of damage. Manticore does die right next to Malekith. Malekith, even with his Soul Stealers, is down to half HP. You can see his healing cap just coming into sight right now. Witch Elves and Dreadspear are still trying to do damage to those Sky Striders, but I wonder when a Butcher is coming up. They probably have it. They just need it off cooldown, would be my guess, because a lot of Elf units have routed, so the Ogres should have plenty of their army passive already. Sky Striders going to Terror out, and more Crushers charging onto the back of Malekith. Trying to get their damage out here, but Terror routes, natural routes coming in across the board. Now the Ogres are still up on the balance power, even with all 3 of their Crushers routing, and that just is a testament to how little the Dark Elves really have left in this fight. Dreadspear is currently getting drained down by those Noblar Trappers. Raven's Herald's almost out of ammo. Soul Stealer is going to hit 2 of the Crushers, not all 3. And still no Butcher. I do wonder if it's on cooldown or if they somehow actually don't have enough. Maybe they used the Butcher early in the game and I didn't see it, and now they don't have a ton. But with these units running off, the Sabertusk pack should be able to chase them down and get a Butcher. And a Butcher on the Sky Striders could still make this game. Like, six Crushers is nothing to laugh at, especially if they get back to full HP per model. Raven's Herald, 1 volley left. Witch Elves trying to come back to the fight. Sabertusk pack's rear charging some Dread Spears, trying to rout them. Really not a lot left for the Dark Elves still in this fight. But if Malekith and the Raven's Herald succeed in just chasing off these Crushers, which two are shattered and one's still routing, so they should be able to just walk them off the map, that could be GG for the Ogres, because then I don't see anything that could kill Malekith. But somehow the Sky Striders do rally in the woods. As the Raven's Herald dive onto them, they get into melee. The Crushers will win that, but Malekith is nearby. He's easily able to support him with no Butcher coming in. I know I mention it a lot, but it is critical. Like, if there's a Butcher, this is a very different game, but if they don't have one, then they don't have one. And then those Crushers won't hang in on this fight. Another Soul Stealer from Malekith, trying to punish all these guys that are down here. The Raven's Herald are routed off. Soul Stealer hits. No Butcher. And that looks like it will be it. Oh, on the far side, there's a Rampaging Manticore and a Cold One Knight. Didn't even notice them out here. Okay, that does make this quite a lot more Dark Elf favored in my opinion. Malekith's nearing his heal cap, but he's routed off everything near him. Raven's Heralds are even back. And yeah, at this point, I think the balance power's on drugs. Dark Elf's got this 100%. Noblar Trappers trying to rally a little bit. Sabertusk packs. Ooh, okay, a lot of Sabertusk packs rallying and surrounding Malekith. Now they can terror up, but ooh, he pops a Massacre. Okay, so that's why he didn't pop Butchers. He didn't have it. He must have just been sitting on tier 2. But all these guys cause terror right now, which means they can't terror out. And the damage amp and the Noblar Trappers. Everybody's just trying to punish Malekith right here, right now. If he has another Soul Stealer, I mean, then the game will end in literally this second. But maybe if the Sabertusks can get him. As soon as that terror buff wears off, all of them are going to terror out and naturally rout. Goodbye, friends. And Noblar Trappers still trying to punish Malekith. But it won't be enough. Too many things are routing. Army losses is about to hit for our friends, the Ogres. And the Cold Knights that were over here somehow got routed, but Feral Manticore is still going to chase off those Noblar Trappers. Is it GG? Sabertusk pack's getting positive leadership. They're rallying. They're coming back. Raven's Herald, ooh, get hit by the Noblar Trixie Trap things. So that's an entirely dead unit. Malekith's still fighting these Noblars. We do have a Manticore coming back. That could be pretty huge, but will it get here in time? Malekith's getting real low, and he's used a ton of Soul Stealers this game. He might still have one in the tank, but I don't know. He used some at full health, so I wouldn't be shocked if he didn't have any left. His leadership's getting awfully low, and the Saber Tusk packs are diving back in, doing some good work in melee. Nobler Trapper's still firing in. The Raven's Herald are able to fly away, so they could come back and get a crucial rear charge in the late game. Big terror out hitting way too many units for the Ogres. They're all routing. These Nobblers are barely hanging on to their leadership, and they are the only thing holding on. While Malekith is also barely holding on to his leadership, so are these Saber Tusks. They could rout at any moment, and they do. And if these Nobblers rout, the game literally ends. Oof, the Ogre leadership. Coming in the opposite of clutch. For Tretch Malekith, 4,200 value. His Manticores did not pay for themselves, but, I mean, they were running around doing stuff. I don't actually love them in this matchup because Ogres are exceptionally good at surrounding large single entities and beating the piss out of them. So, yeah, I don't really see Manticores here, but Cold Knights did fine. Witch Elves did great. Dread Spears did pretty well for what they needed to do. Raven's Herald did fantastically well. Now, if there were Lead Belchers or an Iron Blaster, maybe this wouldn't go so great for them, but they were mostly able to just avoid Nobler Trappers and be fine. But Malekith still mostly carrying there. The other side for the Slaughtermaster, not a lot of damage value on him, though he was just throwing out heals. Crushers 2,300, 3,000, and 1,400. Saber Tusk packs, more mixed value overall, but still good. Nobler Trappers did excellently. Basic Noblars did fine. They did what they had to do. GG's. Roar!
Subscribe, yes, yes.